Hey everyone, and welcome to a very special explainer. Let's just jump right into this because today we're blending deep analysis with a truly practical English masterclass. We're calling it the English Effect, and we're tackling one of the absolute highest stakes conversations you are ever going to have in the professional world, negotiating your salary in English. I promise you, by the end of this continuous lesson, you won't just understand the mechanics of negotiation, you're going to have the exact, confident English vocabulary and grammar you need to secure your true value.
Now, you might be wondering, why is this absolutely crucial right now? Well, take a look at this number. According to the International Labor Organization's latest global wage report, global real wage growth was just 1.8% in 2023. I mean, it was recovering from negative growth the year before, but still. With inflation remaining a harsh reality for so many of us, just sitting back and relying on standard annual raises, it simply isn't going to cut it anymore. Knowing how to confidently negotiate your salary is literally more important than ever.
So, here's the big question. Are you ready? I really want you to treat this explainer as an active speaking environment. Whenever we go over key phrases today, I highly encourage you to speak them out loud. Actively participate. Let's make this your safe rehearsal space. If you are ready to master this real-world English skill, let's get started.
Okay, let's look at our very first piece of essential business vocabulary. I want you to say it out loud with me, total compensation. Go ahead, repeat it, total compensation. Now, what's really interesting here is that this term reminds us that your paycheck is only one piece of the puzzle. As research from the Program on Negotiation at Harvard Law School points out, a lot of organizations are locked into really strict base salary policies. But total compensation includes the whole shebang: bonuses, vacation time, equity, remote work allowances, even educational loan repayment. Remember, you aren't just negotiating a paycheck, you're negotiating a complete package.
Here's another incredibly powerful term, also straight from Harvard's negotiation theory: BATNA. That stands for Best Alternative to a Negotiated Agreement. Basically, this is your backup plan. What are you going to do if this negotiation completely falls apart? Do you have another job offer in hand? Can you happily stay in your current role? Knowing your BATNA before you even walk into that room gives you massive professional leverage. It allows you to speak calmly and confidently purely because you aren't acting out of desperation.
Let's actually see how to use this knowledge in a natural sentence. The Harvard research suggests making a polite non-offer offer to basically set the anchor for pay. Let's read this quote together, out loud. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I've heard that people like me typically earn, and then you just insert the high end of your market range. This brilliantly illustrates how you can drop a high number into the conversation based on objective research without sounding overly demanding or aggressive. Now let's shift gears for a second and see how this plays out in international contexts, because who you are speaking to absolutely matters. Academic research on international business negotiations highlights some massive cultural differences. Western cultures, like the US and UK, heavily emphasize objectivity, right? They believe business is business and they like to separate the people from the problem. Contrast this with Eastern cultures, like in China, where the concept of guanxi, or relationship networks, is literally the foundation of business. In these relational cultures, trust and group harmony often have to come way before objective data. And you know, these cultural differences directly impact bargaining styles. Notice the stark difference in approaches here. Western negotiators often use a vertical negotiation style. That means they take a large contract and chop it into small pieces: salary, then bonus, then start date, and solve them one by one. But many Asian negotiators prefer a horizontal approach. They discuss all the issues at the exact same time, maintaining this holistic view, and they only make commitments at the very end to reach one single package agreement. Understanding these styles means you'll know exactly what to expect when you're negotiating with diverse international partners.
All right, so now that we understand the strategy and the cultural landscape, let's talk about the grammar for compromise. Listen, in business English, being polite doesn't mean being weak, not at all. It means being professional. Using the right verb structures, specifically conditionals and modals, is going to help you maintain an effective, respectful tone even when you're pushing hard for more money.
Just notice the distinct difference in tone here. In negotiations, the first conditional, like "if you agree, we will sign," sounds very certain, very direct. It's fantastic for closing. But when you're still in the bargaining phase and you need to sound more tentative and polite, the second conditional is absolutely your best friend. The structure is if plus the past tense followed by would. It just softens your demands significantly and makes everything sound more hypothetical.
Let's practice this with an authentic workplace example. I want you to read this out loud with me and really focus on the pronunciation of that contracted we'd. Ready? If you accepted 5%, we'd be prepared to negotiate the second point.
Excellent. By saying accepted instead of accept, and we'd instead of we will, you create this polite, collaborative scenario that invites a conversation rather than sparking conflict.
Wow, okay, we are already halfway through our explainer, and you are doing a fantastic job building these skills. If you're finding this lesson valuable, please take a quick second to like this explainer, subscribe to our channel, and maybe share this lesson with a friend or colleague who wants to level up their business English. Your support is what helps us keep creating these deep dive lessons for you.
Okay, let's dive into what is probably the most actionable part of our lesson, practical negotiation scripts. These are actual word-for-word examples curated from Rvarda's compensation experts that are statistically proven to increase job offers. We are going to make sure you have the exact professional phrases you need so you never freeze up when an employer makes you an offer. First up, let's talk about a powerful communication strategy that actually involves no English at all. It's called the silence technique. When you state your counteroffer, you say your number, and then you just stop. Pause for 3 to 5 full seconds. Do not fill that silence with nervous chatter. Silence creates pressure. Letting the employer respond first shifts the power dynamic entirely in your favor. But when you do speak, you want to use advanced collaborative phrases that shift those power dynamics. For example, instead of saying something like, I want, say, based on my research, or given my experience with. This grounds your request in objective value. And hey, if you face resistance, ask them, what would it take for me to earn this amount? Or say, I want to find a way to say yes. Say that last one out loud with me. I want to find a way to say yes. It shows you're a collaborator, not an adversary.
So, the real trick is knowing how to handle objections. What if they say, well, that's our standard offer, it's totally non-negotiable. Here is your exact script to push back professionally. Read it with me. I understand you have salary bands. What I'm asking is whether there's flexibility within that band. See what you did there? You acknowledge their structure respectfully, but you firmly request to be placed at the higher end based on your unique skills.
Now, here's a really interesting scenario. What happens if their base budget is genuinely fixed? Remember our term from earlier, total compensation? If they can't move the actual salary, it's time to expand the pie. You can use your English skills to pivot and ask for a sign-on bonus, extra paid time off, hybrid work flexibility, or maybe an accelerated performance review in 6 months. A fantastic phrase to use here is, if base salary is fixed, are there other components we could adjust?
All right, let's move into the final stage of our negotiation journey, closing the deal. You've made your case, you've beautifully used your conditionals to compromise, and now you're nearing an agreement. We're going to look at some classic expressions highlighted by the London School of English to help you finalize everything professionally and confidently.
So, here are some essential collocations and idioms for this exact stage. When you're ready to wrap things up, you want to ensure perfect clarity, right? If something is confusing, just ask, could you clarify your last point for me? Once the numbers look good, you can soften your acceptance a bit by saying, that seems reasonable to us. Let's practice that final phrase together, the one literally everyone loves to say. Say it out loud. I think we have a deal.
But wait, what if you don't have a deal? What if the offer is just way too low? Rejecting an offer politely is honestly just as important as accepting one, mostly to preserve that professional relationship. In business English, we always soften the blow of bad news. You really shouldn't ever just say no. Instead, start your sentences with unfortunately or I am afraid. For example, I am afraid that offer is lower than I was expecting. It keeps you sounding perfectly professional as you walk away.
And honestly, that just brilliantly illustrates how structured, confident language can literally transform your career. Today we've covered the whole spectrum, from total compensation in BATNA to mastering the second conditional and learning practical scripts to shift those power dynamics. But remember, confident English comes through regular practice. Please like this explainer, share it with your colleagues, and subscribe to The English Effect for more. Also, don't forget to download the free PDF Vocabulary Companion using the link in the description. And leave a comment below telling me exactly how you would negotiate a salary in English. Join us next week for another practical lesson. Until then, I want to leave you with this thought. If you don't negotiate for your own worth, who will? Keep practicing, and I'll see you next time.